Hi, I'm Eric Cottrell of Lynn, Massachusetts. I get my weekly radio news from Sheldon and David on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in beautiful Montreal.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. It's Sunday, May the 18th, 2025. My name's Sheldon, here with Jill, and we have a lot of information for you from the world of radio today, as much as we can squeeze in our 30 minutes that we have available. First off, though, we're going to update you on the official wrap-up of the CKUT funding drive. Event finished on Sunday last week. We have a total for you, as it's ongoing, but we have a total. The target was $55,000. As we're recording today, they're just a little over $52,000 in pledges. What we want to do is to thank all of the people who have contributed and tagged their donation to our program. We ended up with a total of $1,185, which is excellent.
Yep.
So we thank the following people: Eric Cottrell, Brent Dalglish, Matthew Aliff, John Fisher, David Harden, Ronald Hunsaker, Ian Millett, Brian Penny, Robin Spalding, Mario Torino, Mickey Delmage, Thomas Beaton, Giuseppe Capobianco, Bert Harold, Kenneth Isham, Norman Martel, and John McColman. So thank you all for your generosity. We really appreciate it. And we'll do it all again next year. Don't forget, if you've got any prizes coming to you, either they can be sent to you directly, or if you're local, you could go and pick them up if you wish. And we'll have the results of the grand prize draws coming up in a little while as well.
Thank you all very much. So we're going to start off with a little obituary. Unfortunately, it's a known personality. If you've listened to WTWW for some time, when there was this music show on 5085, and then this person went to WRMI, where he had a show called WRMI Legends. Ted Randall has passed away, unfortunately. So the obituary reads like this. Our condolences to the family and friends of Ted Randall, the legend behind the WRMI Legends program on 5050 kHz daily from 0 to 04 UTC, and on 7570 kHz from 04 to 06 UTC. Ted passed away on May 11th. His wife, Holly, and the various Legends DJs have vowed to continue the service, which provides a lot of good oldies music and short Christian religious messages. Take a listen sometime, and thanks to Ted for all of his artwork over the years to keep Legends going. He was an active radio amateur and had a well-known DX program called QSO Radio Show. His legacy will continue. So he was quite appreciated both at WTWW and then WRMI. And I guess a lot of people are a little sad at this. Now, we don't know exactly when the show might restart. A lot of people have been noticing that since his passing, 5050 have been off the air with no music show for now. So I guess we'll see what happens next.
Our next story is from Radio World Staff, published on the 14th of May. Nielsen updates U.S. audio listening trends. A story of interest to those who follow trends in U.S. radio and audio consumption. Nielsen has published its latest quarterly report about listening to ad-supported radio in the United States based on data from Nielsen and Edison Research. You can access the report online, and we'll post a link to this. An interactive graphic on the site also allows you to view the share of daily time spent with ad-supported audio among U.S. audiences for several age demographics. Among the many data points, audio consumption by adults averages 3 hours 45 minutes daily, listening across ad-supported and ad-free platforms, including radio, podcasts, streaming music services, and satellite radio. Ad-supported audio represents 64% of total listening. Adults 35 plus spent 73% of daily ad-supported audio time listening to radio and only 15% listening to podcasts. But among the 18 to 34-year-olds, radio accounted for 47% of daily ad-supported audio time, where podcasts accounted for 32%. The report also provides various data sets, as in the charts that you'll see on the site, which show the share of total radio audience over the air and streaming combined for various radio formats. So radio is not dead, that's for sure. People are listening, older people listening more than younger people, which I guess doesn't really surprise us. We're seeing, though, that the numbers are starting to catch up in that 18 to 34 bracket, especially where they're only about 15% difference between the ad-supported audio and podcasts.
It would be interesting to know the 18 to 34 range. Where are they listening to the radio exactly? Because we don't see those young people actually listening to radio in general. So it could be in the car or maybe at work, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it's always been popular in the car, that's for sure, and remains popular in the car. I'm sure the numbers are there broken down more in detail, so we'll put that link up to the article and to the survey, and you can check it out yourself.
So we have Texas Radio Shortwave that will do tests for Europe on May 18th and 21 via Terry Colgan of Austin, Texas. On Sunday, May the 18th at 1800 hours UTC and Wednesday, May the 21st at 2100 hours UTC, Texas Radio Shortwave will test to Europe over Shortwave Radio at shortwaveradio.de. We want reports comparing the reception of the two frequencies each day and between Sunday and Wednesday, since the broadcasts are at different times. If you have time, note how channel 292 is received on 3955 and 6070 kHz. We'll have a nice QSL for correct reception reports and maybe some other goodies if you send a really detailed report. So you can send that to Texas Radio Shortwave at protonmail.com. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, the first one coming up just a few hours after our show. So you'll be able to check that out at 1800 today, and then again on Wednesday at 2100. We have a breaking story that just came out today via the New York Times. The headline is Trump administration fires hundreds of Voice of America employees. So we're going to take a listen to this report. It's about 4 minutes long, and it is done by an AI voice, so you'll get to hear what that sounds like. But we'll talk a little bit more about it once we've listened to the article.
Trump administration fires hundreds of Voice of America employees. This article is by Minyo Kim and Tim Bulk, and read by an automated voice. The Trump administration on Thursday fired nearly 600 employees at Voice of America, a federally funded news network that provides independent reporting to countries with limited press freedoms. The layoffs targeted contractors, most of them journalists, but also some administrative employees, and amounted to over a third of Voice of America staff. They signaled that the Trump administration planned to continue its efforts to dismantle the broadcaster, despite a court ruling last month that ordered the federal government to maintain robust news programming at the network, which President Trump has called the voice of radical America. In another sign of the Trump administration's hostility toward the broadcaster, the federal building in Washington that houses the media organization was put up for sale on Thursday. Michael Abramowitz, the director of Voice of America, said in an email to his staff on Thursday that the firings were inexplicable. "I am heartbroken," he said. Mr. Abramowitz has sued to stop the Trump administration from closing the news organization. Carrie Lake, a senior advisor at the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which oversees Voice of America, said that the Trump administration had acted within its legal authority. "We are in the process of right-sizing the agency and reducing the federal bureaucracy to meet administration priorities," Ms. Lake, who is leading the efforts to ramp down the operations of Voice of America, said in a statement. We will continue to scale back the bloat at USAGM and make an archaic dinosaur into something worthy of being funded by hardworking Americans. She added, "Buckle up. There's more to come." Some of the journalists who were terminated on Thursday were from countries with repressive governments that persecute journalists for independent reporting, Mr. Abramowitz said in the email to employees on Thursday. Those journalists now have to leave the United States by the end of June, as their immigration status is tied to employment at the news organization. In a letter sent on Thursday to employees who had been fired, the Trump administration cited the government's convenience as a reason for the terminations. The employees were under so-called personal services contracts, making them easier to let go than regular full-time employees with full civil service protections. Mr. Trump has accused the outlet, which delivers news to countries with repressive regimes, including Russia, China, and Iran, of spreading anti-American and partisan propaganda. In March, Ms. Lake, a Trump ally and unsuccessful candidate for governor and Senate in Arizona, had declared her own workplace unsalvageable. She has also claimed that the U.S. Agency for Global Media and its newsrooms were rampant with waste, fraud, and abuse without providing evidence. Ms. Lake said last week that Voice of America would incorporate content from One America News Network, a pro-Trump television channel that has endorsed falsehoods about the 2020 presidential election. Voice of America, which was founded in 1942, halted operations on March 15th, a day after Mr. Trump signed an executive order seeking to gut the U.S. Agency for Global Media. Its news programming has been partly restored since the April court ruling that stopped the Trump administration from dismantling the agency and other newsrooms it oversees. The Trump administration has challenged the April ruling, claiming that the lower court had gone too far in halting other firings that took place in March. In early May, a federal appeals court paused parts of the April lower court order that required the Trump administration to rehire the employees. The Trump administration did not appeal parts of the April order that mandated the resumption of Voice of America's news programming. The lower court found that Congress had required the executive branch to keep the network as a consistently reliable and authoritative source of news. The Trump administration has since kept most of Voice of America's operations shuttered while restoring parts of its service. Its Mandarin and Persian services, for example, were restored, but the news organization's English website has stopped updating since March 15th.
So it's obvious, listening to this, that they really want to make sure nothing comes back by selling buildings, by telling everybody it's just over. Forget it. And it is very sad to hear that.
It's really surprising, a couple of the things that they've done. I mean, there is in the story the fact that at least two of the services have been reinstated. The Mandarin and Persian services, for example, were restored. But I think what really is going to concern a lot of people is the comment that some of the journalists that did the foreign language programs for certain countries where those governments don't really appreciate those programs being on the air, those journalists are going to have to leave the United States by the end of June. I would not want to be one of those journalists going back to their country of origin. That could be very dangerous for those people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sad to see that, nothing like that is taken into consideration. It's just get out and that's it. And that's sad to hear.
There's going to be a lot more fallout about this story. I think this is going to, United States media doesn't really talk about their international broadcasting very much, but I don't see how they could ignore this particular story. I think we'll probably be hearing more about this in the days ahead for sure.
Yeah, and apart from us, the majority of population doesn't even know all of this is happening right now.
Exactly.
So next we have a story about the RFE-RL, Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty, that receives April funding. So Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty announced that it received its congressionally appropriated funds for April after a 6-week delay. The U.S. Agency for Global Media released the $12 million owned after the full U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit administratively stayed an earlier decision by its divided three-judge panel that would have allowed USAGM to avoid paying RFERL the money it was supposed to receive in April. Now the full group of judges will take more time to review the three-judge panel's reasoning. RFERL said in a statement that although the April funds are welcomed, the news outlet will continue its lawsuit against USAGM. It noted that Judge Royce Lambert of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia said that Congress enacted and President Trump signed a law funding RFERL this fiscal year. It is, after all, Congress that makes the laws in this country. In this case, for example, it was Congress who ordained that the monies at issue should be allocated to RFERL, Lambert wrote. During the delay, RFERL said it was forced to reduce programming and staff, which included the furlough of approximately 120 employees. So at least they got their money. Hopefully that funding could continue.
Yeah, it sort of ties into the previous story of VOA, although the two are basically different types of broadcasting, though. So RFERL is an important service, and it's glad. I'm certainly happy to see that at least some services will be going out until that money expires, and then they'll have to wait and see if they can get their next chunk of money. So it's going to be sort of a revolving wheel. Get your money late, use what you have, and then wait to see if there's any more coming.
At least it's there because it's a very important voice. So what's happening with our son? Our son has started to be very, very active this week. We had this very quiet length of time where there isn't much happening. Then there's this huge sunspot, 4087, that rotated into view at the beginning of the week. And it's been active. It has unleashed at least 2 X-class solar flares, some of the most powerful, and several M-class solar flares. It's slowly rotating and positioning itself that if some more of those are happening, we might actually get auroras and all sorts of disturbances. So the week ahead, it's pretty much going to be dominated by that sunspot. If it flares or not, it's still a big threat for X-class solar flares, so it could be radio blackouts at times, and it could also trigger auroras or geomagnetic storming here on Earth if the flaring continues. Sunspot number 45, the solar flux 119, and to witness all of this, to see what the conditions are all about, you got to turn on the radio and listen.
This is Janice of Dorval. The International Radio Report presents 30 minutes of news, information, and commentary on developments in the world of radio every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
Our next story comes to us from Dave Kenny of the British DX Club News via Glenn Hauser's World of Radio, and also forwarded by David Morris. Radio Onda testing on 6140 kilohertz via Luxembourg. It's the return of shortwave to the historic transmitter center of Jonglister in Luxembourg. The transmitter of the Belgian station Radio Onda has just been put into service at 6140 kilohertz and is doing its first tests with a power of 1000 watts. A great success for the station of the Brazilian community in Belgium that will be able to cover Europe, in addition to its broadcasts on the DAB Plus 12B of the Brussels region. The association has always wanted to broadcast on shortwave from Belgium. Having received no follow-up to their applications for a Belgian license, they had to turn to the Netherlands in recent years. A license has been granted to them immediately by the Dutch authorities, but the broadcasting from that country has, over the years, been too difficult for the station. Eventually, they turned to Luxembourg, where the minister delegated to the Prime Minister in charge of media and connectivity, Elizabeth Margu, quickly granted them a license. The installation was made possible thanks to the amateur radios of Broadcasting Centre Europe, which are installed at the same site. Radio Onda programs are sent from studios that are installed in a Belgian railway station located in the Brussels district of Langan. Radio Onda, Boxtel Station, Avenue Emile Boxtel, 1020 Brussels. So I didn't know there was a Brazilian community in Belgium, but now there's a radio station on the air that will be coming from the famous Radio Luxembourg transmitter site. And look for it on 6140 kilohertz. They don't have any time for the broadcasts listed here, so we'll have to get more information about that. But that's a pretty unique station to be on the air and coming from a very historic location.
Yeah, in these days of stations shutting down, it's kind of fun to hear that there's something coming back or getting back on the air. In our next story, we have Democratic Voice of Burma. Radio Free Asia Burmese language service closes permanently. Myanmar media struggle with U.S. funding cuts. Radio Free Asia, RFA, Burmese language service officially announced its closure on Friday, marking a significant loss for independent journalism in Myanmar, where press freedom is already severely restricted by the regime, which seized power in a 2021 military coup. A diverse media landscape is especially crucial during this period of military rule. This is very sad news, a journalist from Myanmar now working in Chiang Mai, Thailand, told DVB on the condition of anonymity. An unknown number of independent Myanmar news agencies relocated to Thailand in 2021, where they now operate from exile. The RFA shutdown follows U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order issued on March 14th, which led to a notice of funding termination for the U.S. Agency for Global Media. It oversees several outlets, including Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and RFA. We inform you that due to funding uncertainties, the RFA Burmese service will cease operations. We sincerely thank our audience for their years of trust and support. Chan Hong, the head of RFA Burmese language service, shared in a social media post on Friday. Since its inception in 1997, the RFA Burmese service has covered pivotal moments in Myanmar's history, including the 2007 Saffron Revolution, street protests led by Buddhist monks against military rule, and the 2010 to 2021 democratic reforms, which began with the release of Aung San Suu Kyi from her prolonged house arrest and ended with the coup on February 1st, 2021, and her re-arrest. The dismantling of RFA is an unjustifiable decision that risks turning entire regions into true information black holes, said Thibault Bruton, the Director General of the France-based press freedom organization Reporters Sans Frontières, RSF, in a statement issued April 10th. The VOA Burmese language service has also gone silent since March 16th, pending legal and financial clarification in order to resume its operations. The Independent Press Council, Myanmar, states that roughly 44% of funding for independent media from Myanmar comes from international organizations and foreign governments, such as the U.S. Tachilek News Agency announced the suspension of its operations via social media on May 3rd, World Press Freedom Day. While no official reason for the closure was given, it is widely believed to be due to funding uncertainties. Founded in 2009, Tachilek News Agency was one of the few region-based independent outlets which survived the revocation of its publication license after the 2021 coup. 15 media organizations, including DVB, have had their publication licenses revoked by the regime in Myanmar since 2021. The IPCM, which also operates in neighboring Thailand to support independent media in exile, reported on May 3rd that a total of 7 journalists have been killed in Myanmar since 2021, with 40 journalists, 7 of them women, remaining imprisoned in Myanmar. The RSF 2025 World Press Freedom Index ranks Myanmar 169th out of 180 countries, near the bottom of the list with the least amount of media freedoms. The Committee to Protect Journalism says Myanmar is among the 3 worst jailers of journalists globally, alongside China and Israel. So it is sad to see that you're shutting down a service that is extremely important to these people. They don't have press of freedom, really, and it's the only way they can get, the news out. And now you're just saying, well, we're going to shut the Burmese service. So sad.
I imagine that those broadcasts would have also included a lot of information about the earthquake relief
I would guess,
in Myanmar. But they won't be hearing that now either. So it's not just the general news that they were putting out, but that disaster relief news that would have been really important. And what a better way to get it to people than by radio.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have our last item today is a amateur radio contest that is coming up, and it's one of the major ones. It's actually the only event going on next weekend. It's CQ Worldwide WPX Contest. This is the CW event. 0100 Zulu May 24th, running through 2359 Zulu May 25th. It's sponsored by CQ. It's all of the major HF bands, 1.8, 3.5, 7, 14, 21, and 28. So no work bands. And the mode is CW only. So if you tune across the CW portions of the bands, you're going to hear a lot of activity. It is a worldwide event, so we'll be seeing people on the air from many, many different countries. If you are not able to copy CW, or if you copy it slowly, you'll probably have difficulty with this contest because there's a lot of high-speed contesters in this event. And they'll be transmitting very, very high speeds of CW. But hey, you may want to practice your CW if you want, and this will be a good time to do it because there'll be so many interesting stations on the air from a lot of different countries, a lot of new prefixes, what have you. So some interesting opportunities coming up next weekend for the CQ Worldwide WPX contest.
Quickly, couple of stations that could be of interest in the special event stations. There's a bunch of French stations that actually have their call signs ending with Romeo Echo Foxtrot, REF, for Le Réseau des Émetteurs Français. And the reason they have been doing this month is that the French section of the IARU that is celebrating 100 years is also celebrating 100 years. And so a lot of the stations from the Réseau des Émetteurs Français are on the air in different modes. I've seen a lot in SSB Voice, FT8, CW. So there's fun for a lot of people out there. And 2 quick stations that are really nice DX stations showing up. 9 Juliet 2 Foxtrot India from Zambia is operating in different modes. And it's supposed to be there throughout the month of May. And Tango Zulu 4 Alpha Mike is from Mali, also operating in different modes, single sideband and also FT8. So check those out. They're kind of exotic stations to listen to. And with that, we are out of time.
We thank you for tuning in. We can be reached by email, radioreport@yahoo.com. Our show is live streamed and archived at CKUT.ca. We invite you to join our Facebook group, International Radio Report. We're pushing our way towards 1,000. If you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, please consider doing that. And if you want to listen to our show anytime that's convenient for you, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@IRR. And we invite you to subscribe there as well. So that's it for us today. Have a great week. We'll talk to you again next Sunday. And if you haven't donated to the funding drive, you still can do it. Click on donate on the CKUT.ca website. We appreciate all of those who did take the time over the last 2 weeks to support us and to support CKUT. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you next Sunday.
Bye-bye.